It's Celebrity Showdown.
So this week, well, it's a big week with it being the first WGC of the year, and we are celebrating with a fabulous guest. Not only is she fabulous, but she is on site this week working for the PGA Tour. She's a professional golfer. She is an on-air talent and personality, and she's amazing on social media. So make sure you follow her. Chelsea Pezzola, thank you for being part of our show this week.
No, thank you guys so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here and talk about this incredible and exciting tournament this week.
I saw you do an interview today with the owner of the course.
Yes, I did with Bruce Cassidy. He is an incredible guy. And, you know, to hear kind of his stories, he's actually had the opportunity to travel and play with Tony and Jack, and just to kind of hear some of the behind the scenes. And he's an avid golfer. He absolutely, he's golf obsessed. I was talking to the general manager, and he was like, you know, when Bruce and I have meetings, it's hard for him to even talk anything outside of his golf game. So he, you know, it was really cool to just hear the excitement that he really had about this week.
Yeah.
And that was a cool sweater you had on. I didn't know Lindeberg was doing ladies. Are they?
Yeah, they have a whole golf line for women. I'm actually rocking something else tomorrow from them, and wore one of their skirts today. They have a whole golf line.
Have you seen it, Diane?
Yeah. Do you know Marty Hackle, Chelsea?
I don't.
So he was the fashion director at Golf Digest.
Oh, yes.
So we had him on last week, and he was talking about Jay Lindeberg, and he had said to Elle, if you wear it, you're going to look like a high school physical education coach.
I'm too old for that.
But I love it. Their stuff's cool, because we were talking about Hovland wearing it, and it's cool. I like it.
Oh, we might have to get you to have a preview next week. Like, you know, if we have some kind of bet this week, if you lose, you might have to rock one of those sweaters, I think.
I wear a Lindeberg medium on here, up to here. Chelsea knows this course really well, and first of all, we want to get an update, Chelsea, of what I heard your interview today with the owner. You said the golf course is in super condition. You live there, or you have an affiliation with this course. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so I actually grew up in Bradenton, Florida. I went to IMG Academies, and my best friend growing up, her father was a member at Concession. And so he actually took me and my dad out there a number of times. And it's actually the first golf course that I ever beat my stepdad at. And he's the one who actually taught me to golf. And so that golf course holds such a special place in my heart. And it's really the first golf course that I ever had the opportunity to play with, you know, C-level executives, and really be able to learn that golf is such an equal play, or kind of levels the playing field no matter who you're playing with. And so it's just such a special place for me. And it's so special because every time I have played that golf course, I know we've talked so much this week about the conditions. There's never been a time that I played it that it hasn't been in tournament conditions. It's one of the most pristine golf courses I've ever played. And it's so cool because there's no houses out on the golf course. It's just raw golf. And, you know, you walk in the clubhouse and you see all the memorabilia, and you feel the Ryder Cup energy. I mean, you walk in, there's a long hallway, and the first thing you see are this photo of Tony and Jack, and, you know, the flags next to them. And it's such an energy of golf, and you feel the moment of sportsmanship, and it's really cool. And the golf course, you know, just to speak a little bit about it, you know, off the tee, it's definitely challenging and it's a little bit intimidating, but the landing areas are a little bit more open, I think, than, you know, maybe they look. But precision into these greens, these are probably some of the hardest greens I've ever played on, not only because of the undulation on the greens, but also the size of the greens and then the elevation into the greens. I know if you hit one, you know, great iron shot and maybe has a little bit too much spin, you could end up way down the hill and your chip shot back is almost impossible.
Yeah, that's the thing.
I'm already feeling sorry for you, Diane, because Chelsea, she's going to know she's going to know who to pick in this game. And Diane's been on a bit of a bender the wrong way, Chelsea. But of course, we talked about this. I'll let Diane get in here, but we talk about Jack Nicklaus is known for wide tee shots, but he's also known for real precise second shot. You nailed it on the head right there with the second shots. I haven't played Concession, but I know what Jack's all about when it comes to hitting iron shots. Diane, this is going to be your toughest test this week, I think.
Chelsea, the problem is I pick with my heart, and people laugh at me because I host a golf handicapping show every week and I give out all this information that actually is all right. The guys do pretty well. And for some reason, I am appalling when it comes to picking a Fourball team. So,
if it makes you feel any better, my picks really were not have anything to do with statistics. So if that makes you feel any better.
Okay. No, that does. That really does. Right. So with our game, the way it works is I know that you've been on the SG Tour golf gaming app and you have your team picked. So you have to pick someone from each tier. Yeah. And the tiers are based on the official world golf rankings. And obviously this week, smaller field, no cut, the biggest names are playing. So it does make it kind of interesting, especially when you move down the tiers. We always say in a normal week, your guys have to make the cut because if not, you're going to be penalized for that. We don't have to worry about that this week. I'm hoping that's going to work in my favor massively. But we'll get right into it because we want to hear your picks and your reasons why. So first up with tier A, who are you going for?
So for tier number 1, this is hard because, you know, especially after looking at the list of names on the tier and seeing Bryson win at this golf course in 2015 with the NCAA championship, him already knowing the golf course. I think there was an interview last week with, you know, Willie Mack and Colin Morikawa, and they were like, have you played out there? And, you know, Bryson really having that knowledge, I really wanted to go with him, but then also knowing the green structures out there and knowing that this golf course is going to be all about iron precision, I had to go with the world number 1. I had to go with Dustin Johnson. I couldn't go any other way.
Well, Chelsea, it's a good pick. I was listening very carefully about you talking about Bryson, and I'm inclined to think that way myself. He's won at Muirfield Village, Jack's course. He's handled that course, and he's won on this course, the NCAAs. But how can you go wrong with Dustin Johnson? He fades the ball. He almost played good last week. You have to think that he got a lesson from Claude Harmon III and fixed that tee shot that was a little off last week, and he's got to be happy to be back on Bermuda grass, even though this course has a lot of undulation. So I think that's a solid pick.
Okay.
All right, let's hear it. We're ready.
No, that was good. But the other thing, going back to Bryson, and we were talking about this last week because we hadn't seen him play for such a long time, and it's well documented that when Bryson's off, he's not out on the course playing golf. He's on the range, he's working in the gym, he's on his simulator. So the Bryson that we saw playing last week at Riviera, you know, it wasn't the Bryson that we had seen, for example, at Winged Foot. But do you think that he can figure that out quickly and get back on track for this week?
Well, I can confirm I did see him on the range for a very long time. I also saw him on the putting green. You know, it's so funny because when you see Bryson out there, it's not like when we go practice and it's just us, you know, putting by ourselves. He has his whole team behind him. And I think there was 5 people putting with him. He had it wasn't a TrackMan, but one of the putting devices out there. And he wasn't putting to a hole. He was putting one and then he would put another one, and his coach, and he didn't look like he was happy. He was kind of throwing it back and forth, and they were doing some type of drill. So I can confirm that he was not out on the course a lot and really honing in on the range and the putting green.
The interesting thing about Bryson, Diane was with me at LA last year, and Bryson came over to me and asked me a specific question about the golf machine, which I've known for a long time, and he couldn't have been nicer. But when you look at him like what you just described, Chelsea, when he's over there with all the guys and you think, oh, he's crazy. He's got no touch or no feel. Why isn't he out on the golf course learning the greens or learning where the rain is or whatever? But he's like 2 people, you know, real mathematical on one hand, and then he was real personable when he came over and talked to us.
Right. And it's crazy. For me, it's really, I totally understand where he comes from in the science. And I think, you know, being a former player and having something to fully rely on, especially in those moments where you're under pressure, I understand that. But for me, I am the most field player in the world. You know, my golf coach would just take me out on the golf course and almost make me close my eyes and visualize and hit these shots. And that's why I was such a good up and down player, because I could get out of anywhere. So it's hard for me to kind of relate to that. But, you know, this week he's going to have to be one of those up and down players. And this course is all about that. So I am curious to see, you know, how he plays. You can't write him off, but he's not my number 1 pick, I don't think.
Do you think, Chelsea, going about the course there, do you think, I know you know this golf course, do you feel like with the weather and the way the course is right now, it has the runaway effect around the greens? It's not going to stop and hold. It will run away?
So I actually talked to the superintendent this morning and I asked him, you know, how are the greens? How are they rolling? And he said, right now we're cautious with the greens because when they get them rolling, it's almost impossible to stop them. So I think the first round, they're going to be a little bit more cautious to kind of see how these guys attack it. I think it's not necessarily a long course, so they will have those shorter irons in, which will make it a little bit easier for them versus someone like me playing it out there where I'm like, this is such a hard course. I think they'll kind of have, you know, that leg up. But I think it's really going to depend, one, on the wind, and two, kind of what they do to those greens the next few days. But I think the first day they're going to kind of be really cautious about what they do and how fast they have them rolling.
Right, so your Tier A pick, he was actually our number one pick for this week as well when we re-ranked the field, which is no surprise.
Right.
Justin Johnson. Right. Tier B, and that's what I was saying, like, sometimes it gets harder when you work down the tiers, but when you have a field of this caliber, you have to, it's like you want to pick 5 different people in each tier. So it's like coming up with your reasons for whoever. But which guy are you going with for Tier B?
So you guys might think this is maybe an off pick, but I actually took Abram Ancer. Again, I've said this, I think in every tier I've said, but it's all about iron precision. I am Team Mura over here, and that is what Ancer plays. And I actually was, you know, on the range today watching him hit. And it was incredible. So that's who I picked. I also, my second favorite was probably Finau, maybe just because I'm rooting for him so dang hard to win. But yeah, I had to go with Abram.
Okay.
I'm rooting for Finau, as everybody is as well. Chelsea, your pick, Abraham Ancer. I was hoping you weren't going to say that because I took 3 statistics this week, and I'm not a huge stat guy either. I use it about 20%. But I took driving off the tee this week, proximity with the irons, as you've already talked about. You're big on the sound, big on the iron play, and putting. And that thing combined, Abraham Ancer on the tour is like number 2. So this is a really good pick for this week. And he's actually one of our sizzlers this week, Diane. Is that right?
He is a sizzler. He's number 7 in the stat category. We're not getting too carried away here, but he is still, I mean, that's amazing. Chelsea, the thing about Ancer as well is with the undulation in the greens at Concession, I've heard comparisons to Augusta National and Jack kind of drawing influence from Augusta National, and you have to see how Ancer played at the Masters in November. I mean, obviously, completely different time of the year. However, for 3 solid days, he handled those greens really well. So hopefully, you know, there might be a little bit of a spark that comes to him, and this could be, you know, the green condition that he thrives on.
Yeah. When you talk about the greens, I had a chance today to talk with Chris Cochran, who is one of the senior designers at the Nicklaus Companies and actually designed the Concession golf course with Jack and Tony. And he said the green structures they took them kind of back old school. Jack really wanted to go kind of to some of his older designs where like you see those runoffs and you feel like, you know, you have to kind of walk around the course to feel the undulation and you kind of get that old school feel. So it's definitely, you know, kind of relates to exactly what you just said.
Okay, good, right? Abraham Ancer, good pick.
Yeah.
The good thing for you, Chelsea, is when you pick someone like Ancer, we're probably not going to pick him, so you've got him. So that's because we don't want to copy you, you know.
Right.
And I need to win. I'm being totally honest here. I need to win because that's it's okay. As I said, I pick with my heart, and I'll never change.
She doesn't like what she's saying. She doesn't like the text of the leaderboard when I send them to, and I have little all sorts of artwork put on with Diane arrows down here.
I'm hoping for beginner's luck over here. So.
I know. The thing is, I always get my boyfriend to play in the game as well, and he's just like, "Man, let me beat you! Like you're so bad. I don't care about anyone else. Like I just want to beat you." Anyway, whatever. Okay then. So on to Tier C. Who are you picking?
So I'm going with Colin Morikawa. This one, like you said, it was really hard for me, but watching Colin win and watching the precision that he has in his iron game, that was the number one reason why I picked him this week. I also got to see an absolutely incredible moment this week between him and Paul Azinger. They were on the 18th green, and I had just done an interview with Paul, and Paul actually walked over to Colin because Colin was walking up behind us, and Colin and his caddy stopped. And Paul was literally showing him, you know, one of these infamous shots, and he was literally kind of teaching him how to hit the right shot out there at Concession, with Paul being a member, you know, and obviously a former PGA Tour winner. It was just one of the coolest moments. And you know, Colin kind of looked a little bit timid at first, but as they kind of progressed, he was like hitting these shots that were like absolutely incredible. And I think, you know, just him being there and being open and kind of getting that knowledge from kind of some of, you know, the greater tour players, I think that, you know, was a really cool moment. And I think kind of showed a lot on his end. And yeah, his iron game, I mean, it's phenomenal. The way you just listen to him hit it, I was like, oh, so he was my pick this week.
Well, I know Alex is going to have something to say about this pick, and it's nothing to do with the irons, but another club.
No, well, the advantage that we have over you, Chelsea, but you may have an advantage over us because you're actually there, but you have to lock your picks in today, and we actually get a day and a half now to think about our picks. But yeah. I love Colin Morikawa. He won the PGA, my tournament, so to speak, but he has changed his putting grip. He's gone to that right-hand saw grip. He's 185th in 5 foot and in putting on the tour. He's really sort of out of sorts. And I told Diane on this show yesterday, I said, I'm not putting Morikawa back in the top 10. He's one of my favorite guys until he can prove to me that he is over this sort of down period with his putting. Okay.
Well, we'll have to see. This is going to be the week that it's definitely put to the test, put it that way. So Tier D, and as always, you know, you've got some names in Tier D that, you know, people are going to look through that category, and a lot of guys from the European Tour and from other worldwide tours over in the field playing. So there's some interesting names in Tier D, but I want to hear who you went with.
Yeah, so I went with a very outward pick. I think this is more of a heart pick, completely not statistical. I actually went with Will Zalatoris. So he, you know, an incredible Korn Ferry Tour player. This is his first WGC. I saw him a few times out there. You can tell he's got a little bit of nerves, but he's like so excited. And so I think he's going to come out and do well this week. I think he's got the energy. I think he's got the heart, and he's obviously shown, you know, some really strong golf in the past, and so he's my last pick.
We're big on Will. We were just talking about him. We're really big on him this week, yeah.
We did a segment on him yesterday, saying maybe 6 months ago he was probably rooming with someone on a Korn Ferry tour, going out and splitting meal checks, and now here he is in the top 80 in the world, top 70 in the world. Chelsea, unfortunately for us, you're on the site, you live there, you've been there, and now you've picked this dynamic team. This is Diane. This is pressure.
Kind of crushing, yeah. But with Will, and we were talking about this, is that it's just incredible that he's, after that top 10 finish at the US Open, and he's been granted this special membership for this PGA Tour season, and he's 48th in the world. I mean, it's unbelievable to think, as El just said, where he was 6 months ago.
It's crazy, and that's why I love golf, because, you know, the doors that it opens, and he's just shown so much strength and kind of just perseverance, and that's why I'm pulling for him, and that's really why he was my pick.
Mm-hmm. And the fact he hasn't won, which we were talking about as well, like how consistently good is this guy to have jumped up that much in the world rankings, yet he hasn't had that win, which is coming. I mean, obviously, he's got an amazing career ahead of him.
Right. I'm interviewing him tomorrow morning, so I'm very excited about that. So that might have been another reason he was, you know.
Now, Chelsea, when you think about this course, and you touched on Tony Finau, and you said how difficult these greens are. Will guys like Finau, who, look, let's face it, the only club in his bag that he has to conquer is that putter. Do you have to be a strong putter do you find yourself with a ton of long curvy putts, or what kind of putts do you finish up with at Concession?
I feel like this golf course, and this might be a little different from kind of what maybe some of the other people are saying, but for me, it's not almost like if you're a good putter, it's if you're a creative putter, because this golf course is going to give you a number of double breaking putts, maybe even triple breaking putts. I mean, I cannot tell you the number of times I've hit incredible iron shots that have ended up on the wrong side of the green because of the way that they break. And they're almost impossible. And it's just like, how do you get it close enough to make those putts? So I think you're really going to have to be strong, inside 6 feet, but then be really creative on kind of those longer putts. And I think, you know, when you're out there, if you can start strong and making those putts early and kind of gain that confidence, it's obviously going to help as you kind of go through the weekend. But I do think, again, the greens are going to get progressively harder as it goes on, as we know in most tournaments. But I think even out there, it's going to be even a little bit more challenging.
Okay.
I have one more question, Diane. Chelsea, how do you put together a score at Concession? Is it a difficult start, a difficult finish? Is there easy fives? How does one put together a good score at Concession?
So Concession actually is a complete risk reward golf course. There's a few short par fours, specifically number 8, number 12 is one of the shorter ones. Those are almost, it depends how you play them. If you want to go for it, there's a ton of trouble, you know, the water, the wetlands, you know, the Oak Highlands, that all comes into play. So I think it's really all about management, course management. If you can play to the yardages that you feel comfortable with those shots in, that's how you're going to kind of get those good scores. You know, coming in 18 is a tough par 4. I think it's more about just not starting strong, not finishing strong. I think it's just maintaining a good course management throughout that 18 holes, because this golf course is all about placement, and it's all about leaving yourself the right yardage into those holes that you feel confident to stick it close enough so that you don't have those triple breaking putts or don't find yourselves with those chips. You know, there's one hole out there, I have to talk about it. It's a par 5, it's on the front, and I'm blanking if it's 4 or 5, but the undulation or the elevation into the green, it's one of the most insane greens I've seen, and it's so narrow, but it's so wide, and it's like you have to hit just the most perfect iron shot to get it to stay, and then let alone like make the putt. And so I think but obviously they'll have those shorter irons in if they're not going for it. So I think it's really just about leaving it, you know, course management.
Okay.
Good deal. Well, thank you for coming on our show. Thank you for playing our game with us this week. I hope you win. I tell that to all of our celebrity guests.
I do too.
I would love to see you win it, and tell everybody about our game, and they can come and play with us if they want to.
Yes, I will kind of encourage my group. We always love kind of getting in on the action and doing that. So I definitely will share. And thank you guys so much for having me on. This was so much fun, and would love to come back sometime soon.
Good. And we can follow along. You're actually working for the PGA Tour and doing a lot of the social media for the WGC Workday Championship. So we can catch you doing all your stuff there.
Yes, come say hello, come follow along.
Good. Right, Chelsea, thank you so much. Good luck this week.
Thanks, guys.